Hello, folks. Let's do something great. Let's do something magical today. Let's rank the Disney animated movies. Not the sequels, mind you, but just the original classic animated movies from 1937 to the late to around now. I know there's going to be some forgettable ones, there's going to be some good ones, there may even be some true classics in there. But let's go through all of them and let's go through the tiers. But let me know what you think down in the comments below and let's get to it with our first one, of course, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. We're going to put that in the nearly perfect. The story is very basic, but you can't deny when people first saw this, I wish I could go back to this time to see how great the animation was, how different it was. I mean, it's only an hour long, but it's still just a classic story. Yes, classic princess stereotype through and through. And yes, Disney's trying to destroy its classic masterpiece with the new remake of Disney Snow White, which who knows if we'll ever see because Rachel Zegler is a terrible, terrible person. But maybe we'll see it. And, well, if we do see it, we know it's going to be total crap. But first one, so great. And it's really the only one that there will ever be, no matter how much Disney wants to tell you different. The original classics are the classics, and the new ones are just literally came out of somebody's asshole. I'm not going to say whose, but you know who. Pinocchio. We're going to put this up in nearly perfect. Very dark movie. Compared to Snow White, this movie goes dark as dark can be. I mean, Pinocchio learns the value of telling the truth, and he experiences some wild, crazy adventures. Of course, the trip to the amusement park, being used as a puppet, and watching one of his friends, or not one of his real friends, turn into a donkey. One of the most terrifying things you could possibly imagine. Now, if you read the original story, you just see how messed up it is. I mean, just imagine being turned into a donkey because you just do something bad as a kid. And then you're thrown into a salt mine for the rest of your life. And some of them can talk, some of them can't. Can you imagine being a donkey and being able to talk? And of course, you have Monstro. Not even going to talk about the newer Pinocchio, which was just destroyed. I mean, they literally turned Monstro into this abomination, to be honest. But the original one is still a classic animation. Yes, Wish Upon a Star is not a great moral to teach your children, but it's still a hopeful message that we can all get behind. Fantasia, absolutely perfect. The music, fantastic. The animation flows with the magic perfectly. And of course, the way it ends with Night on Bald Mountain, followed by Ave Maria, is one of the most beautiful and dark and beautiful pieces of animation mixed with music that we'll ever see. Sure, the sequel didn't turn up as well as it did, but the animation shines through. And sadly, as much as the money it did make, just didn't make enough to make more because Disney was planning on making more of these. Sadly, we only got one. And yes, we got a sequel later, which isn't that bad, but we'll get to that eventually. But this one, arguably one of my best Disney movies of all time for sure. Dumbo. We're going to put this in good. I don't think it's nearly perfect, but it is pretty darn good still. And for those of you out there that are going to question the Black Crows are funny. They are really funny, and I'm not going to talk down about the Black Crows just because, oh, there might be some racism involved with it. Black Crows are funny. Dumbo is cute, and who doesn't love the pink elephant scene? The song is fantastic. Dumbo being drunk and learning to fly, making an elephant fly, and making his mother rich, basically, not having to work like all the rest of the bitchy elephants that made her life hell, and her son's life hell as well. I mean, Dumbo doesn't deserve any of the bad things that ever happened to him, but it's a triumphant story where he truly learns to be who he is, and it's just a fun story. Very basic story, but a fun one regardless. Bambi. Yes, Bambi. Gonna put that in the good category. Not my favorite by any stretch of the imagination, but the animation is still beautiful, especially when it transforms about midway through the movie from winter to spring. Just absolutely gorgeous colors. Gorgeous colors. And yes, Bambi's mother dies, of course, and man is the villain, but it's a classic story growing up, and him learning to be who he is, him learning to be with his father, and you think his father's actually a pretty good role model, all things considered, and so many funny moments as well. It's a good classic story. And no, it did not traumatize me as a kid. Not, I'm a hunter by trade. Sure, I love to hunt. Still, this movie does not ruin my like of hunting at all. We're gonna put the next couple one in forgettable. Saudos Amigos, Three Caballeros, Make Mine Music. Fine, these are all kind of forgettable. I just don't really care for them that much. They're not bad. The animation is fine, but it's just no characters are really. I mean, sure, there's Donald and then there's Goofy. It's just it's kind of it doesn't really do anything for me. Put Melody Time in there too. Fine and Fancy Free is good because of the Jack and the Beanstalk segment. It's one of the most classically revered things in Disney animation history, but the rest of it is just kind of throwaway. Now we get to Mr. Toad, The Adventures of Ichabod, and Mr. Toad. I think these are great. Now, the Wind in the Willows is not my favorite one, but the story of the Headless Horseman and Ichabod Crane is the worst person in this movie, and he frankly deserves everything that comes to him. Brom Bones, yes, he's a bully, but he deserves his lady love. He deserves it more than Ichabod. Ichabod's just greedy. He's just a greedy bastard thinking about getting her father's land. Doesn't really care about the love. He just frankly uses it to get ahead. Now, of course, who really is the Headless Horseman? In my opinion, the Headless Horseman really was in terms of the movie, was a real spirit. I don't think it was Brom Bones or anybody else scaring off Ichabod. I think it really was true spirit, and frankly, I think Ichabod kind of may have died at the end, just with the pumpkin flow or coming towards you, and in the frame, it just screams him getting hit by a pumpkin and then dying. I mean, we'll never know what actually happened, but I tend to believe that Ichabod Crane was killed by the Headless Horseman. But the animation, of course, is good as always, and it's just two classic American tales, and one is definitely better than the other, but both of them are great nonetheless. Cinderella, Cinderella. This is easily one of my favorites as well. I love the classic story of Cinderella. Her hard work and dedication gets her the award that she truly deserves. I love Gus Gus. I love Lucifer chasing the mice around. Yes, it's probably not in the original Cinderella story. I know it probably isn't, because if you read the original Cinderella story, it's very dark. I mean, the two stepsisters literally had their toes cut off to try and fit into the slipper. They still don't fit. And I think they get their eyes pecked out by crows in the end. Yeah, it's pretty dark. But I still love Cinderella. I love everything about it. I love the fairy godmother. And the evil stepmother is truly a terrifying woman. How she has so much control over her life. And the remake of this isn't terrible. But frankly, we didn't need to know how Cinderella became where she is. We just really need to know how she gets out of her situation, how she gets into a better life, and what she finally does. And it is a good decision because she truly deserves it. And those evil step sisters are terrible. And Lucifer is hilarious when he goes down hard. Alice in Wonderland. I love Alice in Wonderland. I love all the characters. I'm not going to put it in a masterpiece. I'm going to put it right here. Still a great story. I love all the characters: March Hare, the Cheshire Cat, the Queen of Hearts, and her petulant childlike behavior. It's funny how she's taller than her husband, the King of Hearts, and she's just a petulant child, and she really shouldn't have overpower over anybody. And the thing about Alice in Wonderland, the story isn't about Alice. It's about the Wonderland. It's about all that thrives around her. It's all about the crazy characters that she meets along the way. And she finally finds her way home, having a new unrespective life, I suppose. And I'm sure it'll probably lived on further in life. I would have loved to kind of see what the sequel in animated form would have been. I know we've seen the Johnny Depp movies in live action like several decades later, but those just aren't don't hold a candle to the original animated classic. I think Lewis Carroll would be proud of what this movie had been had he been able to see it. To be honest, it's just a fun movie, and the animation is absolutely gorgeous. Peter Pan, I think it's a good movie. Not my favorite by any means, but the main reason I love the Red Man song. Yes, it is not racist. Get over it. It's a song from the 50s. It's a song from a different time. Get over it. We're not going to be whitewashing history just because a couple of white people from the modern day have a problem with it or think others have a problem with it. We don't care for the people like that. What is. Just accept it for what it is and just move on with your day. And of course, the crocodile. Who doesn't love that fucking crocodile with the clock in his mouth and his eyes ticking up and down, tick tock, and always looks at Captain Hook like a nice salmon or like a nice piece of fish. And it's funny how he chases Captain Hook is meant all over town. I mean, the ticking song that happens whenever he comes in the frame and the sheer amount of terror that Captain Hook gets is so fucking enjoyable. I watched this a lot as a kid, and I still watch it a lot now. Fun movie. If you haven't seen it, if you haven't seen any of these movies far, just go fucking watch them. They're not that long, and especially if your children have not seen them, show them. There are lots of good life lessons in all of these classic animation stories. Some better than others, but a lot of these so far are just so fun. You have to show them to your children, frankly. I think it's a requirement. Lady and the Tramp. To me, forgettable. Beautiful animation. Lady. I love the Siamese cat song, but to me, it's just it's a love story. And it just feels so like boring. It's not very memorable for me. Yeah, it's just not very memorable for me. But I understand why people enjoy it, especially if you're a dog lover. If you haven't seen it, what are you doing? Go watch it. Sleeping Beauty. I love Sleeping Beauty. The animation, I think, is even better than what we got in Cinderella. And while it's not as good as Fantasia, it has one of the greatest villains of all time in any form of media, in animation or live action. I'm me, the mistress of all evil. And she's so evil, all because she wasn't invited to a child's birthday party, which is the greatest thing of all. She is a menace. She cackles. She throws lightning at her minions and just... And when she finds out that that her minions were looking for a baby, even after 13 years, instead of looking for her girl with beautiful golden hair that had aged like 13, 14 years, or no, 16 years, I should say. And on her 16th birthday, she'll touch the spinning wheel and die. And of course, the classic story of the prince fighting the dragon. Yes, the prince is very forgettable. Prince Philip is very forgettable, but Maleficent is fantastic. She drives this movie along with that beautiful animation. The Angelina Jolie movies that came decades after this are an abomination. Don't watch them. Just watch the original classic. Do not watch those movies if you enjoy these, because you'll hate yourself that much more for doing so. And again, this one is good. I think it's a little better than Lady and the Tramp, just because Cruella de Vil is a classic villain. She's just evil. She's just evil for no reason. She's just like, who wants to turn a bunch of puppies into a fur coat? What kind of monster wants to do that? Oh, the puppies are adorable. A lot of them have their own distinct personalities, which is cool. I love the road rage incident with Cruella de Vil having those eyes of sheer red, chasing after her prey. It's like, I want to kill dogs. Who wants to kill dogs that much? It's a movie that only come from a film company like Disney, and It's great. It's not my favorite by any means, but especially if you're a dog lover, it's another one of those great ones. And especially when the two meet up, when Pongo and I forgot what the lady dog's name is, when they bring their owners together. It's really cute as well. Sword in the Stone. I'll put this in the good tier. I love the wizard battle between Merlin and Madame Mim. It's great. It's fun. I mean, the movie kind of slows down. It's really sad when Arthur turns into a squirrel. And there's the lady squirrel. The lady squirrel wants to be with him so bad. It's just, and then he turns back into a boy and scares her to death. There's a scene of her crying. It just kind of gets you a little bit. It's fun though. The movie is a good movie. Animation is, at this point in the Disney catalog, is, I wouldn't say it's declining by any means, but it's not as good as it was in the 50s with the Cinderella and 101 Dalmatians. Well, actually, the animation there isn't as good. Or Sleeping Beauty is probably my favorite, along with Fantasia for all-time classic old-style Disney animation. But you can see it's starting to slip just a little bit. Then it goes back up again here with the Jungle Book. Yeah, it's pretty darn close to being perfect. I mean, all the animals, King Louie, Baloo, Bagheera, they all have their great songs. Shere Khan is a great classic villain with a great classic English actor as the voice. You never run from Shere Khan. He's so great. He's so confident that he's going to get Mowgli, but he doesn't. And frankly, he should get him, and it's great. I mean, yes, it's nothing like the Jungle Book, the book it's based on, but it's still fun regardless. And Mowgli knows he has to go to the Man Village. He knows he has to go there, and he makes the right decision in the end, leaving all his friends behind. But he can always go back to the jungle, and suppose he does later in a sequel. But still a good movie overall. All the villains are memorable. Kaa and everybody I mentioned before, they're all great. They're all memorable. Fun movie. Aristocats is very cute, but it's gotta be one of the most forgettable movies. Although the Be a Cat song is great, and cats going after the mice at the end is fun. It's just so forgettable. I just don't have much to say. The songs aren't that great, except for the Be a Cat song. The animation this time is kind of dipped as well. Again, it just has. But it's still a good movie regardless. Just a very forgettable one, to be honest. Robin Hood, gonna be up here. It's definitely one of my favorites. The movie's so funny with King John, Little John, Robin Hood himself. The songs are memorable. The animation is good. Don Bluth animated movie. Classic story of Robin Hood. All the songs are great. There's some great action all throughout, and it's just a really fun time. Especially, it's a really good movie for young boys, and it's just a fun movie regardless. Classic love story, and the joke about changing from an in-law to an outlaw at the end is, or an outlaw to an in-law is great. Winnie the Pooh, I like Winnie the Pooh, just kind of forgettable for me. I don't really remember much about this movie, but it is a fun movie. I'll put it up in good. His animation is still good. Pooh is adorable, and I just love all the characters in this movie. The Rescuers, another forgettable one. We'll put that above here. I'm just not the biggest fan of the first Rescuers. There's just not much I can say about it, to be honest. I mean, none of the songs are really all that memorable. The romance between the two is kind of fun, I guess, but John Candy is probably the best of all of them in this one, but other than that, not much to say. We'll put Fox and the Hound in the good category because it is a really good movie. It is kind of slow at times, and it is a real tearjerker at times. I mean, when the old lady has to send Todd out into the woods, you see her like bawling up inside. You just feel for her so much, all because the old dog got hurt, and it's not right. And it's sad because Todd and the dog have a good, Todd and Copper have a good relationship, but in the end, Todd is alone in the woods like all foxes should be, and Copper is a hunting dog. It's just you always remember the friendship between the two. It's really a fun story, but when as they get older, the movie starts to lose a little pace. To be honest, I mean, there's some exciting moments, but it just feels like their friendship is over just because of the animals that they are. I mean, they have a great friendship early on. It just kind of falls apart in the end, and that's why the movie is good, but it just loses steam for me towards the end. Probably gonna get shit for this, but yes, yes, Black Cauldron is not a good movie. I frankly enjoy it a lot, just because I love the evil king. The Skull King is great because John fucking Hurt is the voice. I mean, how better could you be than John Hurt to be the main villain at this point in time? But the animation isn't great. The story kind of sucks, except for the villain. The villain, I think, is one of the more underrated villains in Disney history. It's still a fun movie for me, but for most see it as a failure and was a huge box office bomb for Disney at the time. A really, really a bad time to be a Disney executive because this movie bombed so hard. And next we have The Great Mouse Detective. One of the underrated great movies out there. I mean, this movie is fantastic. I mean, that's a great villain, Radigan, with Vincent Price writing the voice. I mean, come on, he is loving it in this movie. You love to see Basil Baker. He's basically the mouse version of Sherlock Holmes. I mean, it's a fun story, and the fight scene at the end, it hurts. You see Radigan just ripping apart with his claws. Every moment hurts, and the way Radigan goes out is fantastic. You just love Radigan's song, and the cat that that eats, and of course the bat at the beginning. Low key, one of the moments in my childhood. And every time I watch it, just that bat coming out of nowhere just kind of gets you. Just, kind of gets you all the time, and it's so fun movie. It is a masterpiece of mine. Just doesn't get the credit it deserves, and it's one of the more underrated movies in the Disney catalog, and frankly, one of their better ones, best ones for sure. Oliver and Company. I mean, the Billy Joel dog is cool. Dodger. I mean, obviously, it's a animal version of Oliver Twist. I mean, it's just kind of forgettable, to be honest. I mean, all the Billy Joel songs are great. There's a great Huey Lewis song in the beginning about New York City. It's just Oliver is really cute. She finds a really good owner, but and the villain death at the end. While the villain is forgettable, the villain death is fantastic and very memorable. Just is on his car on a train track going toward a train, then the train or the car just explodes when the train blows through it. It is a fun movie, but for me, to be honest, it's kind of forgettable. I'm gonna put it in the forgettable category. Frankly, I'm gonna move Lady and the Tramp up to good, but just for me, it's just not my favorite. The Little Mermaid. Where I put this and not get hated on. The Little Mermaid right there in the good category. It's just not one of my favorites. It's not a good lesson for young girls. Just to wish, hope, and wait for my man. Hope she basically doesn't learn anything from her mistakes in this movie. This is my favorite. It's still better than the fucking Little Mermaid movie that came out last year. And it's just, she doesn't really learn much. She wishes, she loses her voice and gets the man, and in the end, kills the sea witch. Ursula's killed, and she never really learns anything. She never has to work hard for her man. She never really deserves anything. She just, has some great songs along the way, but I could just think it's not the great moral lesson for kids that you really want your kids to watch. But animation is still fun. You remember all the songs. It's just a great movie still, even though the moral message behind it is not the best one, to be honest. Rescuers Down Under. Nearly perfect. I'm not going to put it in the masterpiece because it's not a masterpiece. Although the animation is great, the story is just kind of basic. Still, I mean, it's a good villain. George C. Scott is a great villain as the Trapper, but to be honest, it's just great animation, fantastic animation. A somewhat weak story, but it's still a fun movie. Maybe I should put it in the good category because it's not nearly perfect, frankly, because the story's not that great. Beauty and the Beast. Gotta put that up there. I'm not gonna put it above Fantasia, even though it is the only Disney movie to ever be nominated for Best Picture Oscar and should have won. But we're not gonna get into that. You know all the songs, you know the story. The animation is fantastic. You could not get better than Disney animation at the time. It was truly the bee's knees, and this was right around when Pixar was coming along as well. Absolutely fantastic. Girl gets the guy, even though when you see the prince after he turned into the beast, there's no design of the prince that would have made people happy. There's just nothing that they could have done that would have made you not love the beast less. I mean, the beast, you always love the beast more than the prince because you watch the whole movie as the beast and you just turn into the prince at the end. So it's like, who is this guy? Who cares? He's what the beast was before. And yes, he has a weird foot-like face at the end. It's still a fun movie. A great villain, even though, let's be honest, Gaston didn't deserve to die the way he did. He was just jealous. I mean, he's not really evil. Yeah, classic story. Fun movie. Animation superb. Probably should have won Best Picture, but I guess we'll never have that happen. Aladdin, fantastic. Again, all the songs are memorable. Animation is fantastic, and Robin Williams is fantastic. How he was cheated so hard in this movie. His performance is fantastic, but he got paid so little that when we got the 2 Aladdin sequels and then you get Dan Castellaneta, who of course is Homer, you're like, wow, Disney underpaid him so badly, and just you could have had 3 great Aladdin movies. If Robin Williams is in all 3 Aladdin movies, all 3 Aladdin movies are near the top of the Disney tier. It just frankly is, but they just screwed him over so hard. I love Jafar. Even though Aladdin is kind of a forgettable protagonist, he just has that factor going on. But Iago's great. Gilbert Gottfried, rest in peace. Fun movie. You know all the songs. And Robin Williams, rest in peace as well. You were truly shafted in this movie by Disney, and Disney should be ashamed of itself for what they did to you. The Lion King. We're going to put that up here. Lion King is a masterpiece as well. Yes, I know people. It is great. Classic rendition of Hamlet. You love all the songs, even though some of the songs, to be honest, aren't my favorite. The Make Me King song is just not that great. But the songs are memorable. It's one of the greatest Disney lessons of all time. It doesn't matter. It's in the past. Yes, the past can hurt, but you can either run from the past or learn from it. That's one of the greatest lessons you could ever teach your children. That's why I so highly recommend this movie. That's why no matter how many people try and shit on it now, well, not really shit on it, but or give it lesser honors than what it deserves. You just think that moral lesson, man, that moral lesson for your children is so powerful, so important, and something that I think about all the time. It's a great thing to learn and a great thing to never forget. That your past will always be with you, and you can either learn from it, or you can either run away from it or learn from it. As simple as that. Pocahontas. Forgettable. I mean, the animation is fine. Colors of the Wind is fine, but Mel Gibson as John Smith is pretty fun, but the Savages song is great as well. But frankly, the story is just not all that great. It's pretty terrible retelling of the Pocahontas story, but you can't tell this historic Pocahontas story in a Disney movie. It would be rated R, I'm sure. But it's just forgettable for me, not my favorite. But I understand why some people enjoy it still. Hunchback of Notre Dame. Fucking love this movie. I watch this movie all the time. It's great. Quasimodo is great. The Hellfire song is fantastic. Hellfire. Dark Fire. So fantastic. And Frollo is one of the most underrated villains in Disney history. I feel like he doesn't get the righteous honor he deserves. Esmeralda, Phoebus, great. All the songs are great, and the animation, I think, is superb. It's up there with the quality of Beauty and the Beast, Sleeping Beauty, and Fantasia. It's just, I love this movie to death. And yes, the gargoyles are annoying, and the movie might be better without them. But to be honest, without the gargoyles, I think the movie loses a little bit at the end. As annoying as Jason Alexander can be, I still love them. I still love this movie to death. And it's such a shame that the sequel is such a buzzkill after this movie. It's such a downgrade. But probably my favorite Disney movie alongside Fantasia. Hercules is great. The songs are good. Animation is slowly starting to go down towards the end of the Disney Renaissance. I just love all the Disney retelling of all his classic labors, even though we all know the real story. If you know anything about Greek mythology, the labors come because he does something horrible. So he doesn't need to do the labors to become a god, or he needs to do them after doing something absolutely terrible that involves Meg, and we won't get into that, but I love the Hydra in this movie. I love all the Titans. They all look cool. Polyphemus is great as well. It's just not my favorite movie. Well, it is up there, but it's just missing a little something. The fates are just kind of annoying at times, but the songs are still pretty fun as well. Mulan. Forgettable. Animation is fine. One of the most forgettable villains of all time. The music, not really memorable, and just, I can't put it in Disney shame because it's not bad. It's just so forgettable for me. Tarzan. It's a good movie. I'm not going to put it up near the top because it's not that great. The animation is still good. Yes, the Phil Collins songs kind of drag you away from the story, but Tarzan is a cool guy. Jane Clayton is kind of a forgettable villain, although the way he dies is pretty gruesome, even though we don't see it. Still a fun movie, even though it's not the best of all time. Fantasia 2000. The music is still good. This movie fails because it moves away more so from the music and focuses on more on the celebrity cameos. I think the celebrity cameos take away from it a little bit, but the music and the animation go along with it's still top tier. It's still great, but I can't put it in the top tier just because the celebrity cameos are kind of annoying. Steve Martin as a host it's just not as good as the original band leader from the original Fantasia movie. It's still a good movie, but is it as memorable as the original? No, it's nowhere near as good, but it is still pretty good, all things considered. Dinosaur. movie, the story is forgettable, but I remember seeing the trailer for this movie and just being blown away. I remember seeing this trailer and think, oh my god, that movie's gonna be awesome. But then you go to the movie and it's just like, ugh, it's so slow. It's so boring. Oh my god, how did Disney F this movie up so bad? And this movie lost a lot of money too. It's a shame because it's a cool concept of dinosaurs. What kids don't love dinosaurs? But this movie really fails at that and just, ugh. Yeah, it's just frustrating. Emperor's New Groove is great. I'm going to put that up a little higher. It's great. It's one of the funniest Disney movies out there. Yzma is a great villain. Kronk is great. David Spade is such a jackass for most of the movie, but it's nice that he finally comes around towards the end. Lots of funny moments. It's just a fun story, fun villains, and just a laugh out loud good time. And the animation is pretty good as well. Atlantis: The Lost Empire. It hurts me because I do enjoy this movie, but it is kind of slow as well. You can see the villains, you can see the twist coming a mile away. And I mean, the sea monster guarding Atlantis is pretty cool looking, but the animation is it's pretty down. It's not that great. It's a movie I feel like this movie could have been so much more than what it was. Just should have been so much more exciting, but just kind of, Michael J. Fox is fine, but yeah, just not really much to say about it. I feel like I was let down when I saw this. Lilo and Stitch is good. We're gonna put that above, right there. Stitch is a cute villain. Cute little guy. The villains again. Captain Gantu is a forgettable villain. It is a really good story. It's funny how Lilo's obsession with fat people is really strange, but kind of endearing. And you feel bad for Nani trying to take care of her and just trying to, take care of her sister and live her own life. And because family is everything, which is a good lesson to learn, but the movie just kind of, not all there for me. I remember seeing Treasure Planet for the first time like a year ago, and it surprised me. It's actually a lot better than I thought it was. I mean, the story's kind of bland, but the animation, some of it's kind of cool. Some of the characters aren't so memorable. Long John Silver is the villain. The twist at the end is like, you can see it coming a mile away. It's still fun. Animation is pretty good at times, but it just kind of leaves you feeling empty inside a little bit. I hate this movie. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate this movie. The Moose are annoying. The Wayans brothers are terrible in this movie. The brother bear just doesn't learn anything, to be honest. I mean, maybe towards the end, but you killed the little bear's mother, but it's just I hate it, and I hated sequel too. Home on the Range, another shit movie, just so fucking forgettable. I barely remember this movie at all. It's just the animation is so shitty. It's just this movie was released in theaters, for fuck's sake. This movie was released in theaters, and you should feel bad if you bought a ticket for your kids for this. It's bad. Really bad. Chicken Little. Oh, Chicken Little, bad too. It's going to be a little better than that. But it's just, Disney would be ashamed of all four of these movies. This one has its ups, some minor positives, but these three are just the devil's anus as far as Disney goes. Bolt, forgettable. I mean, the story of Bolt is kind of cute, trying to get back to his owner, but when you find out that it's actually just a TV show, you feel kind of empty inside after that. I felt kind of empty inside after that, and just had Bolt been or her dog the whole time and not just like part of a TV show, it would have had more of an impact, but sadly it was not the case. And frankly, after you learn about the twist, it just leaves you kind of empty inside. Meet the Robinsons is pretty forgettable, although the dinosaur is pretty great, trying to speak. I can't get to him. I have such little arms. I have a big head and little arms. It's funny. It gets me every time. It's hilarious. But other than that, not much to say. Princess and the Frog is good. It has no, not Tangle. It has an underrated villain in the Shadow Man. The Shadow Man has a great song. Um, Tiana is a decent Disney princess. And Prince Shamir or whatever, he's kind of forgettable. Songs are decent. There's a big lipped alligator. It's just kind of, it's a forgettable movie to be honest, but it's not so forgettable that I can't put it out of the good category. It's still a good movie, just not one of my favorites. This Winnie the Pooh movie is good as well. I can't remember much to say about it, but it is pretty good as well. It's just not my favorite movie, but I do remember it a little bit. Tangled has to be up there. The animation is spectacular. Classic story. Mother Gothel was a terrible person. She is so awful. She literally steals the king and queen's daughter and then tells her that she's her mother. It's just like she's clearly not your mother. You're clearly just manipulating her. And when she goes nuts, tries to get her back, I mean, if you don't feel anything for her, you don't feel bad for the villain at all. She's not sympathetic in the slightest. She just wanted her golden hair. And that's all she wanted. She didn't actually care about her. She just had to feign saying that she actually cared about Rapunzel, and it loses all impact for her. She's just not a good villain, but the movie is great. Finn Rider is great. Rapunzel's great. The horse is fantastic as well. Some good action moments as well. And when Rapunzel is reunited with her daughter, with her parents, it's a really touching part. And I don't cry, but it is a touching movie. It's an emotional scene, not a cry-worthy scene, at least for me, but it's still emotional. It's just such a well-animated movie. It's so fantastic. Wreck-It Ralph is good, but on the low end of the good side. I enjoy all the video game aspects. Ralph is cool, but Princess Vanellope is annoying as fuck. Because Sarah Silverman is a terrible human being. She's not funny. She's just annoying as hell. Simon the Hammer guy. I like all the send-ups, all the references to video games, but other than that, it's just a pretty forgettable movie. I haven't seen this movie, so I'll put it in the forgettable category. But actually, I'll put it in the good because I've heard it's good. Just haven't seen it. Frozen. It's down at the good tier for me, but for me, Frozen loses interest every time. Every time I watch it, it gets a little worse. The first time I saw it, it's like, yeah, it's a good movie, good story. The more you watch it, the more you realize how basic the characters are. The more how basic the villain is, how you can see the villain coming a mile away, how you see he's gonna change a mile other way. And yes, the songs are memorable for a generation because they just keep playing them over and over and over again. But for me, it's just the more I watch this movie, the more I hate it. The more I hate it just a little bit more. The more I just hate it just a little bit more every time I watch it. Big Hero 6. I enjoy the hell out of this movie. It's a cool story. Yes, the villain is pretty basic, and you can kind of see him coming a mile away, but Baymax is a cool guy, and his superpowers, and he is a smart kid, deserves everything that comes to him. Classic or superhero story, but frankly, I haven't seen it for a while, so maybe it's lost some of its luster, but so maybe I'll have to check it out again. But when I first saw it, it's pretty darn good. Zootopia is great. Good in characters, good in twists, lots of modern references, which are kind of weird at times, but you love the fox, you love or Sergeant Hops or whatever her name is. I just don't have much to say about it. The songs are kind of memorable, kind of annoying as well, but it's a good movie still. Moana, I think this movie is really beautiful. It's just, again, the story is kind of there. It's just kind of forgettable. who knows what we're gonna get with Moana too. Howie's a cool guy. The Rock is pretty good. Or the main Jake Moana singing voice is fantastic. Alia Cravalho is great. It's just I don't know. It just doesn't do too much for me, but I enjoy what I saw. Put this in the good category down there because I haven't seen it. Raya and the Last Dragon is just boring. It is so boring. The animation is good, but it's just so fucking boring. This one, yeah, not a big fan. Just again forgettable. The fact that the main chick has no powers of her own is kind of stupid, and the fact that I don't want to get into it. Just some weird political moments in there that just didn't need to be there, to be honest. It just doesn't do a lot for me. Disney would absolutely be ashamed of this movie. Does anybody that's seen this movie remember this movie at all? This came out like a year and a half ago, and I don't remember. When I saw this tier list, I was like, oh, yeah, that movie. The movie that was really, really woke and people didn't like because it was really, really woke. Sure enough, it is. It's terrible. Yeah, I have no problem putting it down to the bottom. Haven't seen Wish, but I've heard it's kind of forgettable. The villain is actually more so the good guy. It's more so the one you root for over the princess is supposedly not so good. But yeah, those are the lists of the Disney animated movies from 1937 to now. I'm sure there's probably some that were left out, but these were the best ones, who the worst. And yes, there are some truly awful Disney movies in there, and Disney shame for sure. Disney would be absolutely ashamed of some of these movies, but it's been a great history of Disney. Great. We all have our favorites. Let me know what your favorites are down in the comments below. Have a great day, and God bless.